In a luxurious private villa, hidden among the palm groves of Sri Lanka, the most famous guests from the world of show business gathered this evening. Diddy, known for his love of high-profile events, organized one of the most private and unbridled parties of the year here. His private plane brought to the island an elite audience. Top rappers, Victoria's Secret models, businessmen and actors who threw aside all the rules of decency for a night of pure pleasure. At the entrance, guests were greeted by girls in silk saris that barely concealed their charms. Inside the villa, an atmosphere of absolute freedom reigned. Velvet sofas, flickering candles, luxurious Indian fabrics scattered on the floor, and a pool illuminated by hundreds of lanterns, in which a couple of Hollywood actresses with their shiny bodies were already splashing. Diddy sat at the center of this extravaganza, surrounded by models who fed him exotic fruits and laughed at the champagne he generously poured on their bare shoulders. Somewhere in the corner, two famous rappers argued over whose watch was encrusted with more diamonds, until one of the girls suggested settling the dispute in a more intimate way. But that was only the beginning. As the clock struck midnight, special guests began to appear, dancers from Bangkok, masseurs from Bali, and a mysterious masked man who promised to discover new facets of pleasure. At midnight, the atmosphere in the villa began to heat up. The music got louder, the bodies hotter, and the alcohol flowed like a river. By the pool, where a few hours earlier the models had simply splashed, scenes were now taking place that resembled scenes from the most expensive erotic films. Diddy, in a black silk robe, watched from the height of his private balcony, sipping a glass of strong rum. He knew that this night would go down in history. The guests scattered through the villa's many rooms, each with its own theme. One with red twilight and expensive satin sheets, another with mirrored walls and golden pillars, reminiscent of ancient temples of love. There was no room for shame here. Leonardo DiCaprio settled in the VIP area, having brought several models with him, all dressed in transparent dresses that left little room for the imagination. He joked with rapper Travis Scott while he smoked something exotic and not very legal. But the real drama began when two reporters arrived at the party without an invitation, hoping to capture the most scandalous moments of the night. The guards quickly discovered the uninvited guests, and while one of the journalists fled into the jungle, the other was less fortunate. He was captured and brought straight to Diddy. The rapper only smiled, raising a cigar to his lips. "So what, friend? If you're here, then stay. But if you open your mouth, the world will know what the real problems are," he said, throwing a glass of champagne to the reporter. Somewhere after 3 in the morning, the party reached its peak. The air mixed with the aroma of expensive perfumes, smoke, and the salty ocean breeze, which barely made its way through the heated atmosphere of debauchery. The pool had already turned into an arena for wild games. Several Hollywood actresses had arranged an impromptu competition, who could last longer underwater in the arms of half-naked models. Diddy, meanwhile, was relaxing on the balcony in his black robe while two former Victoria's Secret models massaged his shoulders. He was enjoying the view when one of the security guards suddenly appeared nearby and whispered something in his ear. The rapper's face remained impassive at first, but then he stood up abruptly. "Where is he?" Diddy's voice was calm but cold as steel. It turned out that the journalist, who had been caught by the guards earlier, had managed to pass on some of the footage to his partner, who had escaped, which meant that the press could find out about it tomorrow. "This is your last night if the video gets online," Diddy hissed, leaning towards the reporter, who was shaking in his chair, bound hand and foot. However, the party couldn't stop because of some minor scandal. A real madness began in the main hall. Mysterious women in silk masks appeared among the guests, leading them into dark rooms, promising them unforgettable experiences. Some of the guests had already lost control of themselves, allowing themselves to do things they would definitely regret in the morning. But the real chaos began when the villa was suddenly illuminated by the headlights of black jeeps that burst through the main gate. Someone had spread rumors that something more than just an elite party was happening here, and now the local authorities were interested in what was happening behind closed doors. Diddy realized either he would find a way to cover it up, or tomorrow the whole world would only be talking about the scandal. The black jeeps braked sharply at the entrance to the villa, kicking up clouds of dust. Silhouettes in dark clothes jumped out of them, illuminated only by the brilliance of the moon and the flickering lights of the party. Diddy instantly got his bearings. They could be either local law enforcement officers or even worse, journalists who had received an anonymous tip that something grandiose was happening here. "Close all entrances," he shouted at his guards, throwing a glass of rum on the marble floor. The models and guests, a few minutes ago completely relaxed under the influence of alcohol and not only, suddenly realized that their safe party could turn into a loud international scandal. Some tried to quickly get dressed, others panicked and ran to the backyard, looking for a way to escape. "Gentlemen, the party is over, but not for everyone," smiled Diddy, walking past several models who looked at him in confusion. He knew, panic is the worst thing that can be allowed in such a situation. The guards rushed to the gate, trying to intercept the uninvited guests. One of the guards was already preparing to open negotiations with the people from the jeeps. But suddenly something happened that no one expected. Fireworks thundered in the sky. Explosions of colored lights lit up the night sky over the ocean, and with them a group of half-naked dancers in glittering masks appeared in the backyard. It was part of a special entertainment that Diddy had ordered especially for the second half of the night, and it seemed that no one had had time to cancel the show. The guests, who were already almost panicking, suddenly laughed and decided that this was all part of the show. They picked up their glasses again, and the music played even louder. Even those who had planned to flee stayed, convinced that this was just another part of the grand performance. But Diddy did not relax his vigilance. He cast a quick glance at the journalist who was being held by his men and said quietly, "Make sure he never mentions this night again." Meanwhile, the black jeeps began to turn around and quickly disappeared into the darkness, leaving no explanation for their arrival. Were they cops, or competitors trying to scare Diddy? Or was it something more serious? The party seemed to be saved. The fireworks, the champagne, the naked dancers. All of this created the illusion that nothing bad had happened. But Diddy knew it wasn't. Someone was trying to ruin the night, and he needed to figure out who it was quickly. In a secret room in the basement of the villa, a reporter sat still bound. His face was sweaty, his eyes were running with fear. Before him stood one of the most dangerous people on Diddy's team, Charles, the Naked King, a former fighter who specialized in handling sensitive issues. "You do realize that this is not the kind of story that should be published?" he asked calmly, twirling a gold-handled knife in his hands. The journalist swallowed. He wasn't a fool. He knew that even if he got out alive now, his career would be ruined. I didn't do anything. It's my partner. He already sent the photo to the editor," he forced out. These words made Diddy, who had been sitting silently in the corner, raise his head sharply. "What did you say?" His voice was quiet, but such that a chill ran down the skin of everyone in the room. The reporter turned pale. "They haven't been published yet, but if I don't show up by morning, the editors will release them automatically." Diddy glanced at the Naked King. Find his friend. Find him and somehow make him change his mind. Meanwhile, upstairs the party was gaining momentum. Now the guests were being entertained not just by dancers, but by a full-fledged performance by the secret theater Dionysian Mysteries, known for its intimate, almost ritualistic shows. Some guests were no longer just enjoying the action, but were part of it. In the corner of the room, Leonardo DiCaprio was again sitting with the models, trying to explain to them the importance of environmental awareness, while Travis Scott had moved on. He was already dancing on a table, pouring champagne into the mouth of some influential TikTok star. Diddy was not sure he could keep everything under control until morning, but he had a plan. The dawn was already beginning to appear over the ocean when Diddy realized he needed to act immediately. The air still smelled of expensive perfume, champagne, and sin, but he knew that one more wrong move and this night would turn into an international scandal. The Naked King had already accomplished his mission. The journalist's partner had been found in a small bungalow nearby, where he was trying to connect to satellite internet to send the pictures to the newsroom. But that didn't happen. The signal had suddenly disappeared. "Island magic, bro," the Naked King said, taking the phone from the reporter's trembling hands. "And a wad of cash can do wonders." Within minutes, the two journalists were sitting in the basement of the villa. They were freed from their ropes, offered drinks, expensive cigars, and a choice. "You can walk out of here with news that will change your careers," Diddy said, calmly sipping his cognac. "Or you can walk out with an incredible deal." Two thick wads of bills and non-disclosure agreements appeared on the table in front of them. "Your choice," he added, smiling. The journalists exchanged glances. One of them hesitated, but the other, the one with the materials, was the first to grab a pen. He knew, in this game the rules are not set by the press, but by those who pay. An hour later, Diddy stood on the terrace, breathing in the fresh sea air. The remaining guests were either fast asleep in their luxurious rooms or sitting on the shore, watching the sunrise. The party was over. There was no scandal. Not a single photo, not a single video leaked to the press. Diddy won. He smiled and raised his last glass of the night. A night that everyone would remember but that no one would ever know about.